This is your 3.4 quick write. Your question is which variable in which of these two equations in this system would be easiest to solve for? So you need to say x or y in the first or second equation. So I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds to work on that. If you need to have Mrs. Garrett or Brielle or the substitute pause the video at any point, you can. Okay, let's talk about this second hour and I real quick. In these four equations, which variable is by itself? It doesn't have a number with it. Yeah, Alex? The y. Which equation?
Only the second one, because the first one technically has a -1.
Yes. So we would want to solve for this y in this second equation. So there's your answer to your quick right. Because in this equation, it seems like itself, but it has that imaginary negative with it. So we would want to solve for this y in this second equation. So get that written down. We are going to go ahead and get started with notes. I'm going to bring around note sheets. At this point, if you are one of my classes watching this tomorrow, now would be a great time to pause the video if you need to, while note sheets get passed out. Lower the lights just a little bright on the screen. Okay, so make sure everybody's got a note sheet. If you don't, take this time to get one. If we need to pause the video, do that. We are going to get started solving by elimination. So 3.1 we solved by graphing. 3.2 and 3.3 we solved by substitution. This is 3.4, and then again in 3.5, that'll be part 2. We are solving by elimination. So it is another strategy to do the same thing we've been doing and solve a system. When we solve by elimination, we're still dealing with systems of equations. A system of equations is still a collection of two or more equations. And your solution is still going to be the point that makes both of your equations true. Okay. The strategy that we are using today is called elimination, because instead of substituting in one variable for another like we've been doing, we are going to be able to just eliminate one of our variables so we can solve for a variable. Then we plug that back in to solve for our other variable. So as a general rule, most students think this method is easier than substitution. So if you were struggling during substitution, pay attention to this method, because then you should at least have this method, okay? So if you're struggling during substitution, this is an easier method for most people. Most people understand it better. And so pay attention during this one, so that way you have at least one strategy to solve these problems if you're still struggling with substitution. So for elimination, our first step is to multiply one or both of our equations so that one of our variables will eliminate. And we'll show you what we mean by that when we get down to our problems. Then, instead of substituting our equations together, we get to just add them together, and one of our variables will eliminate, so we can solve for the other one. After we solve for the other one, steps 4, 5, and 6 are basically the same as what we've been doing, where you plug your number back into an equation, solve, and then write your answers in ordered pair. So going down to look at our first example, step 1 is actually already done for us. Because on our first example, we have -6y and +6y here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add straight down. We're going to add it just like a vertical multiplication problem. So we do 8x minus 2x, that is 6x, Negative 6y plus 6y cancels out. So that right there is the elimination that we're talking about when we say solve by elimination. And then 22 plus negative 10, same thing as 22 minus 10, that is 12. So now we just have 6x equals 12. Because those variables we're able to just eliminate. Any questions about that step right there? Yes, that first step is that simple. Because some problems are better set up for the other method and some problems are better set up for this method. And that's what we'll talk about the Monday after Thanksgiving break, is which method is better to use with. Okay? They're not all this easy. There's still more steps, and then sometimes there's going to be a step at the beginning. But that first step, once you get them ready to eliminate, you just cancel them out. So we've got 6x equals 12. We're going to divide both sides by 6. And we will get x equals 2. And we now have our first variable. We know that x equals 2. Okay. Then we are going to do steps 4, 5, 6. Step 4 is to substitute your solution into either original equation. So once you solve for that first variable, you can plug that in for the x in the top equation or the x in the bottom equation and solve. You just have to plug it in for an x because it's x equals. I always plug it into the top equation just because it's first, so it makes sense to do the first one. So that's what I always do, but you can also plug it into the bottom one and you get the same answer. So I'm going to take my top equation, 8x minus 6y equals 22, and just copy it down. And then I'm going to plug in 2 for x. So that's going to be 8 times 2 minus 6y equals 22. In this one, solving for our second variable is a teensy bit more work because we don't have an equation that's set up as x equals or y equals like we did in substitution. That's why it kind of ends up being the same amount of work. So we'll multiply 8 times 2 right here. That's 16. 16 minus 6y equals 22. We'll subtract 16. We'll get negative 6y on the left equals 22 minus 16 is 6. And then we'll divide both sides by negative 6. Get y equals positive divided by a negative will be negative. Negative 1. And of course, I wrote too big, and I'm running out of space here. So we get y equals negative 1. And then we write our answer as an ordered pair. X comes first, so that's 2. And then y, so it's going to be 2, negative 1. That would be our final answer. Okay. Any questions right now? Okay, if you've currently got a phone out, please put it away. If you're watching this video and you currently have a phone out, please put it away. I keep forgetting to show classes this, how we could check our answer. So this is x and y, 2 and negative 1 down here at the bottom. We can plug both of those into both equations and make sure they work. So we do 8 times 2 plus 6 times negative 1. And just kidding, it should be minus 6 times negative 1. We need to make sure that that equals 22, which it does. Then we would have to plug our x and our y into our other equation as well. So negative 2 times 2 plus 6 times negative 1. Make sure that equals negative 10, and it does. So that's how you would check your answers if you wanted to. Okay, we are going to move on to our next problem. our next problem, if we look at it and we were going to try to add these together, 2x plus 4x, that's not going to cancel out. Negative 3y plus negative 6y, that's not going to cancel out. So on some of these problems, we are going to have a first step. And our first step is going to be to multiply one of our equations tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but next week. We'll multiply both. But for today, we're just multiplying one. You're going to multiply one of your equations to make it so that your variables will cancel. So you can choose whether you want to cancel x's or y's. So basically, we need to make 2x cancel with the 4x, or you need to make the negative 3y cancel with the negative 6y. Negatives are kind of tricky, so I'm just going to deal with the 2 and the 4. I look at the bigger number, so the one that's further away from 0. So whether it's positive or negative, I look at the bigger one, the larger absolute value, 4x. And I need to turn my other number into negative 4x. Because if I make this be negative 4x, then they'll cancel out. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to take my top equation, and I know that I want to turn this 2 into a negative 4. So I'm going to multiply by negative 2 on the top. Grab your note sheet, please. None of you guys are A and B. They'll be doing these throughout the entire day. They're doing everyone's vision and hearing check. Sorry if you're watching this video. This is a random announcement. They're doing everyone's hearing and vision check, so they'll be announcing them throughout the entire day. No one in here has the last name of A and B, do they? No. No one right now. Okay, so back to what we were working on. 2x minus 3y equals 7. We need to make this 2x be the opposite of this 4x. So we need to turn this 2x into a negative 4x. How we're going to do that is we're going to multiply our entire top equation by negative 2. So we multiply by negative 2 to everything in our top equation on both sides of the equal sign. And I'm just going to write it down below here. Negative 2 times 2x is negative 4x. Negative 2 times negative 3y. Negative times negative is positive. So that's plus 6y equals negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. Okay, then I'm going to lightly scratch this out so that I can still see it, but that I know I'm no longer using it right now. What I'm now going to do is add together these two equations. So I've kind of modified my top equation. I'm allowed to do that because I did everything to both sides of the equal sign. Now I'm going to add together these two equations. So I'll do 4x minus 4x. Those cancel out. And then this is a unique problem. Negative 6y and plus 6y cancel out. So I have nothing left on the left side of my equal sign. I'm going to put a 0 in. And then 14 minus 14 also cancels out. 14 minus 14 is 0. So I am left with 0 equals 0 on this one. Just like with our substitution ones, if everything cancels out and you are left with a true statement, you are going to have infinite solutions. We don't have one on our notes that's going to do this, but we do have one on our assignment that's going to do this. If I were to have everything on the left side cancel out and it was 0 equals, and then there's a number over here, 0 only equals 0. So let's say it says 0 equals 5. That would be no solutions. You do have one on your assignment that happens. Okay. Any questions right now? Okay, flip this over. We've got 2 more examples of eliminating on the back. Next one we've got 4x plus 5y equals 40. 3x plus 5y equals 35. we can look at our x's and our y's. We need to make one or the other cancel out. Our y's in this one are almost going to cancel out because they're the same number. We just, in order to make them cancel out, we need to make one positive and one negative. So all we have to do on this one is we have to multiply one of our equations, it doesn't matter which, by a -1. I'm going to choose to multiply my bottom equation by -1. So I multiply my bottom equation by -1, and I'm going to distribute that out. So -1 times 3x would be -3x. -1 times 5y is -5y. -1 times 35 is -35. Okay, that bottom equation, I'm going to go ahead and just gently cross it out because I am no longer going to use it when I add my equations together. I'm going to be adding my original top equation and my new and improved bottom equation together. When I go to add these, I'm going to do 4x minus 3x, so our 4x plus -3x, that's 1x, equals, because this 5y and -5y cancel out, 40 minus 35, or 40 plus -35, same thing, 5. So I get 1x equals 5. One x equals 5 is the same thing as just x equals 5. So I could show my work of dividing both sides by 1, or I could just know that x and 1x are the same thing. Therefore, x equals 5. Then I am going to plug in that number for x in my original top equation. I could plug it into either equation. I'm going to choose to plug it into the top one. So it's 4x plus 5y equals 40. It's my original top equation. I'm plugging in 5 for x, because once I know one variable, I need to go solve for the other. So I've got 4 times 5 plus 5y equals 40. And we can multiply that 4 times 5 out. 4 times 5 is 20. Plus 5y equals 40. And subtract 20 from both sides. We get 5y equals 20. Divide both sides by 5. And we get y equals 4. So we'll write our answer as an ordered pair, 5, 4. That's a 4. I made it look like a 9 accidentally. So 5, 4. Okay. Any questions on that one? Okay. Last one for notes for today. Move back up to this one. If you have fallen behind and you're watching this playback later, this video is also posted on Classroom. So you can, if everyone's falling behind, have your substitute pause. If just you are falling behind because you weren't doing what you're supposed to be doing, you can go back and watch this later on Classroom if you need to catch anything. Okay, 3x minus 4y equals 10. Negative 12x plus 3y equals negative 27. So for this one, we always look at turning our small numbers into our big numbers. So you've got to decide, is it going to be easier to turn 3 into the opposite of negative 12, or this 3 into the opposite of negative 4? And it's definitely going to be easier to turn this 3 into the opposite of negative 12, because it's easy to multiply 3 by something to get it to be 12. So we're going to multiply our top equation by 4, because if we do that, then that'll make it so that our x terms are 12x, because 4 times 3 is 12x, and negative 12x, and then they'll cancel out like we want. So I'm going to distribute on the top there. 4 times 3x is 12x. 4 times negative 4y is negative 16y. And 4 times 10 is 40. And I'm going to gently cross out my top equation. I'm not going to cross it out so much that I won't be able to use it to solve for my answer later. I'm going to cross it out enough to remind myself that I'm not using it when I eliminate right now. So we are now ready to eliminate. We'll do negative 12x plus 12x. Those eliminate. Negative 12 plus 12 is 0. They cancel out. 3y minus 16y. 3 minus 16 is negative 13. We've got negative 13y. And then negative 27 plus 40 is positive 13. I just thought about doing 40 minus 27 instead. I can keep solving from there. So I'll divide both sides by negative 13. And I'll get that y equals negative 1. Okay, to solve for my other variable. So I've solved for y. I now need to go solve for x. So I'm going to plug in negative 1 for x. And when I do that, I can do it in either equation. I'm going to choose to do it in the top one, just because I always do it in the top one, just for my consistency. So I've got 3x minus 4y equals 10. That's just me writing down the original top equation down here. I can move my paper. Y equals negative 1. That's getting plugged in right here for y. So it's going to be 3x minus 4 times negative 1 equals 10. Still have this 3x. Negative 4 times negative 1. Negative times negative is positive. So this is 3x plus 4 equals 10. And then just a few more steps to solve. I can subtract 4 from both sides. Get 3x equals 6. And then I can divide both sides by 3 and get x equals 2. I'll write my answer as an ordered pair. X always comes first, so it'll be 2, comma, negative 1. My lesson learned, I should have made this box a tiny bit bigger. Okay. Any questions right now, second hour? Okay. First hour and seventh hour, if you have questions, because you guys are the one that are watching this recording when I'm gone, ask Brielle in first hour or Mrs. Garrett in seventh hour, or make a note of your question and ask me when I get back, because I will be back next week. Next thing that we can do with this note sheet is glue it into our notebook. So I'm going to zoom out, show you guys that we can fold here. And we can glue here. Okay. I am going to bring around your assignments, 1st and 7th hour. At this point, Mrs. Garrett, Brielle, and or the substitute will bring around your assignments. Your assignment today is still just 6 problems. 6 problems is my go-to with systems. There's going to be 1 no solutions and 1 infinite solutions, and the rest of them will cancel out. Or the rest of them will work out, I mean. On this first one, I got ahead of myself. It's ready to just cancel out. That's what I was going to say. So just like the first one on the assignment was ready to cancel out, the y's just canceled out right away. This one's just going to cancel out right away. So we go ahead and add those together and solve. And the next one, I would make the 5 cancel out with the -10. So figure out what you need to multiply 5 by to make it cancel out with -10. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my video right here. Actually, one more thing. Today, class, you have this assignment to work on, and then most of us still have at least some of 3.1, 2, and or 3.3 to work on. So that is your task for the rest of the day today. I'm not assigning anything extra. So this video is now at 26 minutes, which means you have almost an hour left of class. If you guys started this at the beginning of class. So that means you need to be productive for the rest of class. Be good. Goodbye, 1st and 7th hour.